Okay, hello everyone. My name is Carla Bernardo and welcome to this Climate Story Lab Southern Africa panel discussion, Clean Up the Act, how we learn to love the planet and minimize our contribution to the climate crisis. So, said I'm moderating. Is it back? Okay, I'm the Communication Manager at the DSI NLF Center of Excellence in Food Security. We produce research to tackle food and nutrition insecurity in the country. So Climate Story Lab Southern Africa is part of a global initiative bringing together climate experts, activists and creatives to develop effective stories and strategies to effect meaningful change. So Climate Story Lab Southern Africa is hosted at the University of Cape Town in the Centre for Film and Media Studies and is led by Reinie and Nikki Rekenitz. Earlier this year, there they are. Reduction. Certainly not in this industry. And earlier this year, they hosted Africa's first Climate Story Lab, which saw participants, creative, climate experts, activists engage in a 4-day intensive workshop where they brought their creative skills to the climate frontline. And again, they've done this today, bringing all of you, bringing our 4 change makers into one space to see how we can clean up our act. So our time is limited. I'm going to try and keep it tight. And so without further ado, let me introduce our 4 panelists. And once we've introduced the panelists, they will then begin with their remarks. Okay, so first on our panel, we've got Stephen Horn. Stephen Horn is the South African Country Director at Clean Creatives and a SAFTA-winning creative director with more than 12 years in media and digital content production. He's also the creator of the South African satirical news show, Politically Aweh. Then we've got Reinie Swart. Yes, please. Okay, and then we've got Reinie Swart, and Reinie is the founder and CEO of Eco Ninjas, a Cape Town startup offering specialized waste management and sustainability solutions in the local and international films. Okay, and then on the end we've got Andy Plessis, and Andy is a food justice activist and has been involved in the development sector for nearly 30 years. He's currently the managing director of FoodForward South Africa, whose core focus is food banking, a model that involves the timeless recovery of quality, edible, within-date surplus food from the supply chain to address food security at scale. Thanks, please. And then between Reinie and Andy, we've got Zusipe Kapa, and Zusipe is the film industry sustainability advisor at Greenset, a non-profit company and a branch of the South African Film Academy focused on, among others, minimizing and measuring the carbon footprint of productions. Zeus is also pursuing his master's, looking at sustainability in the film industry. Okay, and now I want to hand over to Stephen to kick us off with the opening remarks.
So some slides. I don't know if I should. Are they coming up? No. Should we go without slides? Well, I think it's just, let me just start by, luckily I did improv classes, we're sorted. Thank you so much for the intro, and very cool to be on this panel. This is such a wonderful event, and I think creativity is honestly one of the biggest solutions to the climate crisis. So creativity and storytelling, Climate Story Lab, what they're doing is absolutely pioneering. As Clean Creatives, we're a global movement bringing the advertising, PR industry together with clients and creatives together to tackle the climate crisis by declining contracts or work with the fossil fuel industry. So the number one driver of climate change is the energy sector, and essentially they're contributing to 75+% of the emissions that are going into our atmosphere. And I like to use the analogy of a beach ball because we think that there's just so much space out there. But if you hold your arms open this wide, and that's the size of Earth, the thickness of our atmosphere is from the bottom of my finger till my fingertips. That's how thin our atmosphere is, right? And we pump in gigatons of carbon dioxide emissions in the air every year. So essentially, what we're saying with clean creatives is there's currently no way to work on commercials or promotional materials, PR strategies and campaigns for companies like Sasol, Shell, Total Energies, BP, Astron Energy, Caltex, you name it. So all the big coal mining companies and so on that are not aligned with the Paris Agreement. The Paris Agreement is a global agreement bringing together all the world's countries to agree to rapidly reduce emissions to safe levels. If the companies are not aligned with those scientific, what are called science-based targets, then they're essentially not being responsible corporate citizens and doing any advertising for them. Often their advertising contains images of solar panels, kids playing happily, as if this is the future. Kids, young people love our brand. And yet the global capital expenditure of the fossil fuel industry on renewables and very low carbon tech was averaged 1% last year, and that's from the International Energy Agency's energy outlook, which is the expenditure on average by the oil industry. So, and that's been consistent, but they're showing us this green image. So there's a deep misperception being created, and we as creatives shouldn't further that. It's slowing down. It's essentially slowing down and delaying climate progress. I know I probably need to wrap up quite soon, so I'll just quickly end up on what Clean Creatives' ultimate goal is. We have a pledge with over 700 advertising agencies and growing by the day, production companies, advertising agencies, PR companies that have committed to no longer working with fossil fuels because they are not presenting themselves as part of the solution to climate change. So it's a hard line, and we can draw that line and separate it from other industries. Yes, there's other problematic sectors, but we're saying this, furthering this kind of energy source when they're playing deceptive tactics with us as the public is slowing down climate action. So our pledge, the Clean Creatives Pledge, which you can sign up at cleancreatives.org/South Africa if you want all the local context, which has been endorsed by 23 civil society organizations and environmental justice organizations, including the Desmond Tutu Foundation in South Africa. Our pledge is now over 1,400 creatives, more than 100 in South Africa, 700 agencies are growing by the day. That's the Clean Creatives Pledge, and we say the future of creativity is clean. Thank you.
And I really encourage you to check out Clean Creatives website. I went down an absolute rabbit hole. They're using creative skills, using our ability to tell stories in a really effective way, where I, someone who's not in the energy space or in the film space, understood what I'm reading. It made sense, and it made me want to sign the page. So thank you, Stephen. Andy, over to you.
Thank you, Carla. So what FoodForward South Africa does is we work within the food system from origin right unto an individual that eats their food. So we work with farmers, wholesalers, retailers and manufacturers, and wherever there are surplus food opportunities, supply chain disruptions, and they are always throughout the food system, we make sure that we timelessly recover that edible surplus food. So for example, a farmer that's growing for a retailer that wants a very specific tomato, anything bigger than that or smaller than that specific tomato, the farmer's got to discard and it ends up in landfill. We make sure we intercept that food and then we use that food to feed people. So we work with commercial farmers, small-scale farmers, emerging farmers, as well as retailers, so Pick n Pay, Woolworths, Food Lovers Market, Spar, and then manufacturers like Tiger Brands, RCL, Rhodes Foods, Nestle, etc. And then throughout that food system, over 10 million tons of food in South Africa is lost or wasted throughout that value chain. And it's criminal in a country where close to 50 million people are food insecure for 1 or 2 weeks of every single month. So FoodForward South Africa is connecting those dots. We want to make sure that we reduce food loss and waste, which is the third largest emitter of greenhouse gas emissions, and we want to connect people, organizations, and expand our network. With the food that we recover, we were able in the last financial year to promote or to distribute 88 million meals, reaching 2,750 registered non-profit organizations that reach close to 1 million vulnerable people with free food that's edible, within date, quality food that would have ended up in landfill. So we want to connect the dots. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Of course, we're going to talk a bit more about FoodForward South Africa and also what they can bring to the creative industry, but an incredibly necessary, urgently needed initiative in a country where stunting for children under 5 is not slowing down, where there's hidden hunger, micronutrient deficiency is growing in Southern Africa, and where access to food is a major, major problem. In a country that is in fact food secure, we produce enough. Okay, Reinie?
First of all, thanks so much for being here. I do wish there were a few more of you here because this is probably the most important discussion at this conference. So let's straight to basics. My name is Reinie Swart, and I started Eco Ninjas in 2020 as an answer to the heaps and heaps of farm-related waste ending up in our country's already overflowing landfills. So the answer to that was a specialist waste management business that actively collects, separates, and actually washes all of the waste that accumulates on set as it accumulates. So basically, in a nutshell, what we do is we arrive onto the job and we place our dustbins everywhere and make sure that from the minute anything hits a dustbin, we are actually actively fishing it out, separating it into its recyclable category or organic category, washing what is already contaminated, because that's a big issue here. A lot of recyclers don't want to accept the waste because it's too contaminated. And then we actually hand it over to a vetted recycling processor, because that's a whole other discussion. Where does it actually go once we've washed it and categorized it? A big thing we focus on as well, and probably for me at the heart of it all, is to strike a balance between socio-economic and environmental sustainability. We have a massive problem not only in our country but in the world where especially small business owners and actually big business owners try and pay their staff as little as possible. And from day one, we made a lot less money because we decided to pay people properly. And what has happened from there is we've got staff that love what they do. We've got some staff that are earning 30,000 a month, more than what I actually pay myself to run the company. So that's a big thing that we're trying to do here, and create that marriage between environmental and socio-economic sustainability. Since we've started, we've successfully completed 160 projects in the commercial space, feature film space, and music festival space, where we've diverted over 50 tons of organic and recyclable waste from the landfills. And we've just launched a reusable inventory of utensils on set that are eliminating single-use paper cups, plastic bottles, no more of that. There's no need for it. Even at this conference, we could have done it, we should have done it. There's a whole bunch of unnecessary waste being generated here. And in addition to that, we're also launched a carbon reduction strategy and carbon calculation service, because we see that's also what the industry needs. You can really increase or make better what you're actually measuring. So now we're a full-service sustainability agency offering a holistic approach to the film industry. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you. And again, to check out Eco Ninjas Instagram page, social media platforms, the website. Again, storytelling, using a really effective way to express what you're doing. But also, like you mentioned, taking an intersectional approach to climate change and to climate action. And I think a lot of the time, the conversation around climate change, we speak about vulnerable communities, we speak about poor and working class people, but they are not themselves part of the conversation. And I think that you've been very deliberate in engaging working class people and working class struggles. It's incredible, by the way. Zeus.
Thank you very much. From my side, I'm from the organization called Minimise, which is an NPO. So what we're doing basically is we work in the film industry, the Eco Ninjas, but we're focusing more on calculating the carbon footprint. So what we're doing is we work with a number of productions like also streamers like Netflix. So what we're doing is we measure carbon footprint in the beginning. So we engage with producers, we engage with blind producers, we engage with partners, so which was a very important one, speaking with the different departments and to actually manage their carbon footprint and minimize. So and then in the end we have like a whole carbon calculator that we use to calculate carbon footprint. So we're able to measure, for example, like to know that fuel is one of the biggest contributors, and fuel also flights. So those are the biggest contributors that we have. So now what we do is, after finding that, we take that and then we advise in the next production, like, okay, the previous production was able to have this amount of carbon footprint, then what do we do in the next production to ensure that we reduce our carbon footprint? And secondly, what we do is we provide in-service training for graduates that are coming from universities. So we work with the University of the Western Cape's, UT, AFDA, and UCT. So we have a number of graduates that are getting trained as sustainability coordinators, so that they can be able to work in the next projects. And also with green PAs. So we have green PAs that are working as a ground forces within the industry. And also lastly, our main biggest focus is on circular economy. So we try to incorporate whatever that we do within circular economy. For example, we have developed a machine that was funded by Netflix, a machine that recycles polyurethane and polystyrene into bricks. So that is the first that was done in South Africa, because we have this big, massive toxic waste that used to go to landfill. But now, with working with Envirolite is able to absorb all the polyurethane that we generate from set, and then we take it there and then we generate bricks out of it. So one of the projects that we've done after that was to build an 80% center in Delft. It's called Minimise. If you can go and look it on our website as well, you're gonna see the bricks are very light. We have a sample, our stem are very light, and then they're fire resistant. So you don't have a problem where you're like, okay, it's gonna catch fire, and then but they're a mix of polyurethane, polystyrene, and cement. Yeah.
Thank you. So obviously a lot of innovation, using those creative skills to innovate and to provide sustainable solutions, not only in the industry and for the industry,
yes,
but as Yus has explained now, for our communities as well. We're going to get into that carbon calculator, but now we're just going to do Q&A, one question per person, and then we're going to open up to the rest of you to ask those questions that you want to our food panelists. So Andy, can we start with you? You've explained a bit about food banking, about the methodology. Tell me, what can FoodForward South Africa offer the creative industry?
Thank you, Carla. So, in response to the growing amount of waste and our wanting to intercept that waste timelessly, the industry calls it waste. Ironically, we call it surplus because it's edible, it's usable, and there's an opportunity that's able to be derived from this. Huge amounts of opportunities able to be derived. So, in addition to what we call traditional food banking, where our trucks would go to a farmer's farm while he's harvesting, or manufacturer's manufacturing plant while they're producing, or retailer's distribution center while they're distributing to their stores, our trucks don't fetch it, bring it into our warehouses, sort it, store it, and distribute that to non-profit organizations. But it's not scalable because we have vehicles, we've got a carbon footprint, and it's costly to get everywhere with vehicles. It's impossible, in fact. So we developed a piece of technology called FoodShare. And what FoodShare does is we seamlessly, across the country, connect beneficial organizations within our network with retail stores that have surplus food that's edible, within date, and able to be used. And so where our trucks can't go, our technology is able to go. So we've got our technology active in all of the Woolworths stores nationally, collecting surplus food, and they've reduced their footprint by a huge amount. I'm not at liberty to say because it's Woolworths, but by a huge amount, and we are able to connect those dots between where our trucks are not able to go, our beneficial organizations can go and get that food, we can use it, cook it, they can freeze it, and then use it to feed people. So we have that technology in Pick n Pay, Woolworths, Food Loves Market stores. It's not in the film industry, and when the film industry considers about a greener footprint into the future, they must look at linking organizations like ourselves to make sure we reduce that footprint, that carbon footprint. And one of the ways to do that is where we have surplus food on set that has not been touched. We don't want half-eaten muffin. We want to connect organizations to local organizations to where the film sets are filming and make sure that we can take that food and make sure that people get to eat that food. We serve a lot of 24-hour service centers like shelters, care for abused women, youth care centers, and those kind of things, and they can easily use that food. So the unused, usable, edible, good food, we want to make sure that we connect it to those people. The second way the industry can help, and I'm hoping something is going to come out of this, is nobody is telling the story of the huge amounts of surplus food that is available but that's lost in our value chain. In a country that has enough food, exporting huge amounts of valuable food outside, but yet 50 million people, half of our country, are starving. We have the highest incidence of child malnutrition in the world. In the world, where our children up to 5 years are stunted. And once they are stunted, you can't redress that malnutrition-related disease. So why are we not telling that story? Why are we not telling the stories of that surplus food, calling out those people that are driving that surpluses into our landfills, and making sure that we change the narrative from, say, instead of dumping, there's an easier way to do this. It benefits people, it reduces your footprint, and it saves our environment. It's a win-win-win-win. And we need people to tell that story for South Africa. It's needed, it's urgent, and it must happen now.
Reinie, do you want to tell me about the day in the life of an eco-ninja?
Yeah, I can tell you it's a hectic day. So basically, we make sure that we arrive on set at the same time as the catering, because the first thing we want to do is make sure that the catering department has a food container, because already that's where the supply chain on set starts. We want to streamline the waste streams, so make sure they've got food containers, baristas got a coffee container, set up our recycling bins or stations, as we like to call them, across the entire base camp and shooting location, and immediately start doing rounds. So basically, we do like an average of 20,000, 25,000 steps a day, because we don't stop going to the bins and fishing out recyclables and food waste as they accumulate. So obviously we've got everything clearly marked, but what often happens is a PA gets called by the director, and I've seen him throw a full coffee into the bin right in front of my eyes. And as much as we try to educate people on putting things in the right bin, we also are there to, as everything accumulates, separate it quickly, fish it out, make sure we chuck the coffee in the right place, take the cup, wash it, and basically just do round after round after round after round, pulling the waste out, and like I said, washing it on site, categorizing it, and making sure that when they call wrap, every bit of waste that's been generated that day is in its right place to be handed over. And then, in between that, we're chatting, and a lot of people are asking us how they can be more sustainable, what sustainable choices can they also make with regards to the materials they're using, and basically just being that presence on set that shows them that we're going to go above and beyond to make sure that they're sustainable.
Thank you. And so you are, I think Reinie had said, martial arting waste away.
Pretty much, yeah.
Thanks. Okay, and then Stephen, do you want to tell me about what are the risks involved for the creative industry? Should they continue taking on work from our big polluters, fossil fuel, and then all the other climate things?
That's fine. Yeah, it's a really good question, and I think not only is the threat of climate change growing, but so is the threat of climate litigation. We're tracking over 2,000 lawsuits around the world of big oil being put onto account for lying, deliberately misrepresenting how burning fossil fuels is causing climate change. Their consulting company, Minimise, is now being named in one of the cases in Oregon, and that's an enabler, right? So PR is also an enabler and advertiser of this industry, and if we're misrepresenting, if we're lying, that's greenwashing. So we need to be really careful. As Clean Credits, we've noticed a lot of greenwashing. We've noticed the commercial starring Plessis saying Total Energies is reducing their emissions by putting solar panels on their petrol station roofs. That's misleading because it does not have the context of their entire carbon footprint, and then 88% of their expenditure went into oil and gas last year, fossil fuels. Right, a tiny small proportion, only 12%, isn't going into renewables. And as I've said, across the industry and broadly, it's even less. In the UK, Shell's recent advertising sustainability campaign was banned by the Advertising Standards Authority of the UK. We know that the regulator is ramping up. The DA has just officially put into their official national policy new greenwashing legislation. That's what they will bring to the table if they get elected next year. We know that there's a shot of that happening with this whole changing political landscape. And the ANC will be forced to respond. It's moving into parliament. Greenwashing legislation is going to kick up. And then, there's increasing lawsuits. There could be one locally, so we need to start watching out for that. Cape Town, there's a team that I work with Fossil Free South Africa with Clean Credits. We have another team working to implement a fossil fuel advertising ban. So much like we banned tobacco for the health risks, we are also going to be implementing, and we encourage you all to just Google fossil ad ban Cape Town, support us, share the word. We will be launching a petition soon. We have the endorsement of Amnesty International and Greenpeace International's former General Secretary, Kumi Naidu. We have UC, I think it's the Public Health Association of South Africa. So there's a lot of endorsement happening for that ban campaign as well. Maybe it'll make it commercial and it won't even get in. So there's a lot of risks. And then finally, I'll just end it off with, there was a time where, and it is the case sometimes now, where agencies, production companies were proud to work on Shell, BP, right? Big brand, lovable brands. Engine says we're the most popular Gen Z brand in their press release, which is insane because their future is trashed by companies like Engine. And essentially, there's going to be a time where, already it's happening, where agencies are not putting out those press releases anymore. So we've spoken to people who were working on the Shell account at the time of the Wild Coast protests against Shell. 450,000 South Africans signed a petition to stop Shell from blasting the Wild Coast. Well, let me tell you, the people at that agency told us they quickly rolled back because of the reputational risks. You're in the reputation industry, and your reputation is going to be intact.
Yes, absolutely that. It's your reputation, it's your credibility, and now you are going to be facing a generation of young people who are engaged in this discussion and who are engaged and committed to climate action. And effectively, that's your bottom line. So if the rest of it doesn't matter to you, your finances are at risk. Zeus, tell me about the green set carbon calculator.
The carbon calculator was commissioned after we've done Raise Boundaries Season 1. So it was funded through HBO. So what the green set carbon calculator does is we measure 46 key indicators across various departments within the film industry. So from the unit in transport, you have petrol, fuel, all the fuel and energy. You have catering, you have from beef and stuff like that, because we know like beef industry is contributing massively towards the carbon footprint that we have. So that's what the carbon footprint does. So it was commissioned with a company called Credible Carbon. So Credible Carbon is a company that we use to offset, so you can use them to do the offsetting. So we did that in collaboration, and then it's free to use. So we did a carbon calculator that is free to use, so that we can be able to help like the small local productions that don't have the money and the resources to be able to pay for any carbon footprint. So they can be able to measure their carbon footprint, and then they know very well that in the next job, then you're able to, this is where I'm going to be producing more of my carbon footprint. Because it's very important for us, because what we did is we measured the footprint of these international big productions, and then we were able to see that it's something that's really that needs to be done. And then
Thank you. So it's locally relevant,
yes.
And it's also free to use. But I mean, Zeus, and I want you guys to maybe pose a question to him about also this, is it a battery that you guys have created, but other innovative technology that they've come up with, and then also that they are building capacity on a student level and creating green warriors, at least across the province. Okay, so I'm going to throw it to you. I'm going to open the floor to questions and answers. It's your time. Okay. Do we have mics? Okay, we've got a mic. There we go.
So if you can answer by anyone, I just had a question in terms of how we communicate climate change and climate change issues and sustainability. Really, we speak in this terms. And I wanted to find out, how do your projects go about kind of communicating those things or those innovative ideas to your community and not necessarily know that their projects like building cars out of recyclable materials is actually recyclable or is actually contributing towards mitigating climate change. So how do you do that? How do you include that in your projects?
Let's get about 3 questions and we can go through that again.
Hi guys, thank you for such an informative session. My question is, given that we work in South Africa, which is a developing country, right? How, with very limited technology, clean technology, it's not very accessible to your normal person. What do you do? Like, what initiatives have you started that cater for your normal person who cannot afford to buy an electric vehicle, for instance, or like such things? Because I feel like we all want, as someone who's in that space, I want to have clean energy on set. But when they ask me about the specs of the technology that I'm introducing to them, it becomes like a little bit inaccessible to your normal folk. And you know that there's a lot of budget constraints when it comes to like sustainability, specifically like sustainability. They have the budget for everything else, but not sustainability. So what have you guys done to mitigate that? Yeah.
Okay. We'll take one last question.
Thanks so much. I just wanted to know, from our side, as filmmakers, as everyday citizens, as people in the world, what do you need from us practically that helps the initiative along? So it's kind of like with FoodForward SA, so I work with a production company. Do you need like us to say, okay, let's partner, every day you come and pick up so much amount of food, or you know what I'm saying? Like, what do you need from us to make the initiative happen? Because it's often that like everyone in this room is for the initiative, but how do we practically make it happen? How do we contribute to it?
Thank you. We'll take one more question over here.
Thanks. This is specifically for Steve, and I'd love to just hear a bit more about the drive for the divestment drive in this industry in particular, because the film and television industry are often unwittingly complicit or are taking venue choices, broadcast choices, and just talk a little bit about what your creators are doing with it.
Okay, thanks. So 3 questions that we've thrown out to all of you. So number 1, essentially how are we engaging communities, particularly poor and working class communities, and making climate change relevant and accessible and everything, doing accessible to them. Number 2, what are some of the technologies and interventions that are affordable and accessible that practitioners can use and bring on the scene? Number 3, what can the creative industry do to support your initiatives? And then Stephen, your question from Mickey. So start where you want to start. Zeus?
So I'm going to start on your question. So I think one of the what we're doing in this moment is that we have project-specific communication. So what we do is we make sure that the normal people that comes on set, we have a communication that starts from Monday until Friday. So for example, on Monday we focus on circular economy, and then up until Friday where we have like Bag Friday. So this is to encourage them. On the day we have memo. So on a day it encourages them to speak on what's happening on set, also on what's happening outside in the community. So that what you have learned here is that you can take it out in the benefits out to the communities at large. So also with the initiative that we've done, we make sure that after every job, like at the end, we have like what you call we have a project that we do that is going to be funded by a specific project. For example, if it's Netflix, at the end, we're going to have a project specific that we take into the community. For example, when we take crew, taking the cast to do something. For example, in the previous job we planted around like 2 trees via like planters. So those are indigenous trees that we planted. So everyone knows very well. We're getting certificates like on their birthday, so we're not buying a cake anymore. So we give you a certificate, plant a tree for each and every birthday. So those are some of the community projects that we do, which is we encourage everyone to do something. For example, on one of the jobs we have like we use like we mentioned like the clean energy, so just incorporate the clean energy. So working with them, we're able to bring like the 250 kVA battery storage capacity. So that is the first and that is huge for the film industry because we are the industry that is dependent on diesel and fossil fuels. So now if you have like that big storage capacity, then it encourages everyone to know, okay, there is a possibility. So the only step now that we have to do is to make sure that it can be powered. So at this moment it can be powered, but we're still looking into getting obviously the resources and everything to ensure that we have solar to power. But once we have that, then we know that completely at least we have 250 kVA worth of power that is being powered by electricity.
So I think let's go to another fact. Just to quickly say that the clean set carbon calculator is free to use. So there's something there to answer your question. So definitely speak to Swiss and check out the stand afterwards. Andy, do you want to talk about how can you collaborate?
Yeah, so our food share technology, I'll answer both questions at the same time. Our food share technology is used by 2,750 of our beneficiary organizations. So it's a beautiful thing. We have Bobos using our technology because it's not an app, it's a web-based platform. You can use it on your phone, on your machine. It's accessible via what we call, it's not SMS, it's the cheaper version. USSD, there we go, USSD, and we also have WhatsApp integration. And then because we reverse bill the data, they don't pay to access that technology. So they're able to use the technology at no cost to them, and yet we are able to amplify the amount of food we are able to recover. How can industry help? We need to connect food share to where home sets are. So when you guys are on home sets, we also need to connect our beneficiary organizations. So at the end of the day, or at the end of the night, whenever that shoot is done, and there's edible, usable surplus food that has not been touched because of transference of microbes and all those kind of things, we want to be able to take that food and drop it within a 2-kilometer radius with a local shelter or a local women's center and make sure they get that food.
Thank you.
Can I add to that?
Yes, yeah.
So Andy and I met, before this conference, and I said to him, let's talk, because basically they've built a whole system on redistributing this food, right? We've built a whole system on collecting this food. So since we started, any food that's untouched or not contaminated, we kept aside, and when we wrap after a day, then our team leader will drive around looking for people that we can donate this food to, right? But that's maybe not the best way to do it. The best way to do it is for me and Andy, you guys and Andy to sit together and say, can we work together to do it? So that would be what you guys could do to answer your question, is also to reach out and let's start having the conversation during the pre-production phase. Actually, let's start having the conversation during your bidding phase. Because the first thing you can do is make a budget for sustainability, and put your money where your mouth is, basically. And then to answer your question, how we get this message out there to the community is we create competitively paying opportunities in the space. Because what's happening now is, for instance, John, who's been working for us for 3 years now, he was a car guard earning maybe 1,000 rand a month. Now, like I said, on a busy month, he's making 25, 30 grand. And he's talking to people, and now my phone is ringing, and people are saying, okay, are there enough jobs for us to also work? Because now they're realizing they can make a living by taking care of the planet. And that's when the magic happens.
To make that kind of initiative sustainable, Eco Ninjas and the rest of these initiatives do need industry's input, industry's budget, and industry support. Stephen, can we Any of you?
Sure, and I'm glad that we took it there because Clean Creative sometimes sounds like a conversation of less, but actually it's a conversation of more. Because the benefits start accruing when we start aligning ourselves to sustainability. But what we need to do as an industry is to raise your voices as well. Because we can't do it alone. I think it's 2023, we have the hottest shoe on record. I think this crowd knows how bad things are. And to echo what Reinie said, this room should be full. It's absolutely terrifying what's happening. And there's like a media silence. It's a strange thing where we have influencers in this hall with 200,000 plus followers and they're not here shouting about climate change. We need to get them on board. We need to change the narrative. Narratives are where the power is at. And to make this case, the financial case, we need all of your help. Maybe a petition, op-eds in newspapers. What we need is a kind of BEE for the climate. We need to make sure that the green the bids, the ways that the regulations happen and the criteria for selecting the companies we work with excludes those that are greenwashing, that are doing the damage to the planet, right? So how do we prioritize an agency that's taking the pledge? That's showing climate leadership. That's saying, I won't make people love BP or Shell or Total. But, and that's slowing down the whole process. So I think those are some of the winners. We need to look at it from there's a reward here and and absolutely it's so this has to be time to climate justice. So yeah, let's do it.
Thank you, Stephen. Let's do, if there's burning questions, I'll take 2 more and then we're going to wrap things up. Yeah. Is there a mic, please?
I'm so glad that you brought up the fact that this audience isn't full, and I wonder whether part of the issue is that people think that it's going to cost them more to have a sustainable set. So I wanted to hear if there's anyone on our panel who can dispel that myth. And maybe I should move there. I have so many different questions. Okay, let me throw in one more. You were talking about the risks in terms of litigation and other things, but there are also these certain streamers, broadcasters who demand that you run a sustainable set. So can someone on the panel maybe just talk a little bit about that people are actually going to lose money going forward if they can't provide proof that they have a sustainable set. So it is in people's financial interest, it's good for the bottom line.
Thanks, Gary. Is there any other burning question? Okay, we can always connect after the session. Zeus, do you want to take this?
Yes. I'm glad you raised that because we recently wrapped up a Netflix talk. So Netflix has a policy, like if I can make an example of them, because you make HBO as well. They have a policy that says that in every job, when they come here, when they come to South Africa, we settle here. So these are the things that we have to, these are the targets that they've set. So you have to have a hybrid reaction, you must have hybrid reactions to ensure that you reduce your fuel. You have to, each department must have this. So you can't use cruelty, you have to use cruelty-free animals, there are free fabrics, yeah. That's what I meant to say. So you have to use a certain things. So it's no longer only the conversation that is only coming from us now. So the creative, it comes from down. It's a top-down approach, which is very good for us on the ground because we consider ourselves on the ground that are trying to engage with everyone. But now it comes from the streamers from the top. And then it means, because we're an industry that really listens. We're an industry that listens to SOPs, to producers, whatever the producer says in any event, then what that needs to be done. So that's what we need to hear, to start seeing, even for local productions. Local productions, they need to come on board saying, okay, we don't have this much budget for this one, but these are the things that we are willing to reduce. Because in order for you to get streaming everywhere, you need to show that, to ensure that your carbon footprint was minimized in the city next year.
Thank you, Sue. So we're going to have to wrap it up there. I have one final question for all of you. What is the one almost immediate intervention that industry can take to clean up their act? Andy?
Yeah, I think legislation, organic waste to landfill bans are on the way. Western Cape government has drafted legislation and they're working with the municipalities to determine traceability from origin. So it's going to start costing people when dumping. Start now, without the pressure, public pressure being there, and lead the way in the industry to affect climate change and to promote food security at the same time. It's win-win.
Thank you, Sus.
The last point that is very, very important, I think it has to do with how sustainability is viewed in the film industry. So at this moment, sustainability is viewed as this inconvenience. So we are viewed as an inconvenience that is having to waste my time. I'm just here to make a move. I'm not here to deal with sustainability. So now, if we have that approach from the beginning, like how health and safety is being prioritized. So if you can prioritize the sustainability, like how health and safety is being prioritized, make sure that when you're drafting your budget, you have a green budget, a green line in your budget that says that this is for sustainability. It's not an option, it's something that needs to be done. Because at the end of the day, it's like when we're sitting here, it is going to cost us. Because we're going to be sitting here at the end of the day, looking at the amount of carbon footprint we're generating in South Africa. And then someone will compare with the carbon footprint that is being generated somewhere in Hungary or in Plessis or everywhere else. Then, if the policy says that you can't do film production to this high amount of carbon footprint, then someone is going to take their job. It's moving away. So if we can start prioritizing film sustainability in film like anything else, then that's good.
Thank you, Danny.
I couldn't agree more. I think the first thing you can do is budget for it. Make sure there's a budget for it. And you might actually be surprised if you were to say do a cost analysis of looking at all the paper cups you bought and the single-use plastic bottles, compare the price of the reusable models with water coolers, you're actually going to see you're probably going to save money there. At the end of the day, when you do a carbon calculation, the way to offset that, which I don't 100% agree with, because that's like getting a slap on the wrist for being bad, you need to minimize it. But the way to offset it is to pay a fee for it. So if you employ an eco-ninjas or a green state to do that, we're going to actually help you reduce your carbon footprint, meaning you're going to have to spend less money to offset it. So